All right, so today we're diving into something pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty cool. We're going to be talking about decentralized rendering.
Okay.
And, you've seen those like crazy good special effects in movies,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
insanely detailed. Like, how do they even do that?
Right. That level of detail in like those virtual landscapes these days it's incredible.
Right. But all of that visual magic requires some serious computing power.
Yeah.
Like the kind that can make a serious dent in your wallet.
It can be very expensive.
Yeah, definitely not cheap. So, but what if there was a way to tap into a massive global network of GPUs? So instead of relying on these like really expensive data centers, what if we could share the load?
Right.
So that's the whole idea behind the Render Network, and we are cracking open their white paper to see how it all works.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear about this. It's a really clever solution to a growing problem, especially with more and more people creating content for VR and AI even. The demand for processing power is just it's through the roof.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And honestly, traditional solutions, they're just not keeping up.
Right. So we've got these artists, they need more power, but the cost is like, it's a huge barrier.
Huge barrier to entry, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So how does the Render Network approach this?
So imagine a network where anyone with a powerful GPU can contribute their unused processing power to the network.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if you can imagine a ride-sharing service, but for your computer's graphics card.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So artists can get access to the power they need at a fraction of the cost, and GPU owners get rewarded for helping out.
So it's like a win-win.
Exactly. Everybody wins.
I like it. Okay, that's starting to click a little bit. So let's say, okay, I'm an artist.
Okay.
And I'm working on this 3D model.
Okay.
And it's so complex that it's about to like melt my laptop.
Yeah.
So what would using the Render Network actually look like for me?
Okay. So it's actually surprisingly straightforward. So you would just connect to the Render Network, submit your project, and the platform would take it from there. So the workload would be split up and sent to all of those idle GPUs out there, all over the world. And they'd be crunching the numbers in the background. So you get your finished product back way faster, and you didn't have to invest in any of the expensive hardware.
Okay.
And because the network is decentralized, it's way more resilient than just relying on a single data center.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So it's faster, more affordable, and more reliable.
Exactly.
I'm liking where this is going.
Yeah.
So the white paper kept mentioning this RNDR token.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
So that's basically the fuel that keeps the Render Network running.
Okay.
So it's a cryptocurrency, and it's how artists pay for rendering services.
Okay.
And more importantly, that's how the people who are contributing their GPU power, the node operators, that's how they earn their rewards.
So it's like the common language that everyone on the network understands.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk about the details, how it works, the nitty-gritty. One of the things that caught my eye in the white paper was something called the ORBX file format. What is that?
Yeah. So think of ORBX as like a universal translator for 3D files.
Yep.
So it takes all the data for your scene and puts it in a format that any computer on the Render Network can understand. So no matter what software you're using, your files can be processed by anyone on the network.
Okay.
Streamlines the whole process.
So it takes all of the guesswork out of like file types and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more compatibility issues.
That's huge. That's a huge deal, especially if you're working with somebody, on the other side of the world. You don't have to worry about, are they a PC? Are they a Mac? What are they working on?
Exactly.
But how does the Render Network make sure that everyone is playing by the rules, that they're producing high quality work? This is art we're talking about. Like, there are standards.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's where Arcane Bench comes in. So it's a benchmarking tool that evaluates the rendering speed of each GPU on the network.
Okay.
And that's to make sure that, we keep things fair in terms of pricing, and it helps the network efficiently distribute rendering tasks.
Oh, okay.
So it'll send the more demanding jobs to the more powerful machines.
Right. It's like a standardized test for GPUs. I like that. But what about like the people who would try to like game the system?
Right.
What's stopping someone from joining the network with like a toaster for a GPU and trying to claim rewards?
Right. That's a great question. The Render Network has a really clever solution for that, and it's a reputation system.
Oh, okay.
So both artists and node operators, they have reputation scores, and it's all based on their activity and how reliable they are.
So the more reliable you are, the higher your reputation, and probably the more work you would get.
Exactly.
That's pretty elegant. I like it. Now, the white paper also mentioned this multi-tier pricing model. What does that mean for artists using the platform?
Yeah, so essentially multi-tier pricing, or MTP, it just lets you choose the service level that fits your needs and your budget.
Okay.
So if you need your project rendered, yesterday,
Right.
there's a higher tier with faster GPUs that are standing by. But, if you're on a tighter budget, you can wait a little longer, and there are more affordable options too.
Okay, so it's flexible. I like that.
Exactly.
That's good. It really puts the power back in the hands of the creators, right?
Right.
This is just like scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't even gotten to the really cool stuff yet, like NFTs, AI, and how all of this ties into the metaverse.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, so let's take a look at it. You know I love a good deep dive, and this one is shaping up to be a fascinating one. So, for a lot of people, when they hear about the metaverse, it's one of those things that sounds really, really cool, but also kind of like science fiction.
Right.
But when you start talking about like decentralized rendering and the capabilities of it, it all starts to feel a lot more like realistic.
Yeah.
So how does the render network actually fit into this whole metaverse thing?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a perfect match when you think about it, because if you think about what the metaverse needs, it's massive, persistent digital worlds,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, that's the kind of thing that would bring even the most powerful gaming rig to its knees. But with a decentralized network, well, you can tap into a vast pool of processing power
Yeah.
to really make those complex worlds possible.
So instead of being limited by what my personal computer can handle, the render network is kind of opening up this whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about creating these spaces either. I mean, the white paper even talks about how the network could be used to manage virtual assets within these metaverse environments.
Okay.
So, buildings, vehicles, even entire landscapes.
Wow. So you're not just building the metaverse, but you're filling it with all of this incredible detail. And it's
Exactly.
all being rendered thanks to the render network.
Exactly.
I bet this ties into NFTs as well, right? With this whole idea of digital ownership within the metaverse.
Absolutely, yeah. Just imagine a future where, you create a virtual asset. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, a one-of-a-kind spaceship using the render network, right? And then you could own that asset as an NFT, which gives you provable ownership within the metaverse.
Yeah.
And because it's all built on blockchain technology, everything is transparent and secure.
So it's like the foundation for a whole new digital economy is being built right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, pretty much.
But, okay, so that's interesting. Creating these assets is just one piece of the puzzle, though. How do we actually experience these, amazing worlds without needing a supercomputer in our living room?
Well, the white paper actually addresses this with something they call GPU streaming.
Okay.
And so think about it like streaming a movie, but instead of just a 2D video, you're streaming a fully interactive, high-fidelity 3D world.
Okay. Now, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's closer than you think.
Yeah.
So the render networks like X.io framework is designed to make this a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it could completely change how we play games, how we interact with these virtual spaces, how we consume entertainment even.
It's like the difference between watching a concert on TV versus actually being there in the front row.
Exactly.
But all of this whole decentralized rendering ecosystem that we're talking about, it requires a massive amount of coordination.
It does.
How do they even keep this all running smoothly? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, so that's where the heart of the render network really lies. And it's in this burn and mint equilibrium model, BME for short.
Okay.
So it sounds kind of complicated, but it's really just about finding that delicate balance between supply and demand.
Okay, walk me through it.
All right, so it all comes down to the RNDR token. So when an artist needs a render job done, they pay for it using RNDR, right?
Right.
So a portion of that payment is then burned, which means those tokens are permanently taken out of circulation. And that's to help control the overall supply of RNDR, and it keeps its value, stable.
Okay, that makes sense. So then what about the node operators who are contributing their processing power? How are they compensated?
Right, so they are rewarded in newly minted RNDR tokens.
Okay.
So the network is creating these new tokens to kind of compensate those operators for their contribution. And that ensures, they're incentivized to keep providing that valuable processing power.
So it's like this self-regulating system.
Exactly.
A balance between what's being used and what's being created. like an economic engine that's designed to keep the entire network running smoothly.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And the really cool thing about the render network is that it's designed to evolve.
Okay.
So the white paper mentions the importance of like community governance and something called the Render Network Protocol, or RMP.
Yeah.
But basically the idea is that the network itself will adapt and grow based on the input of its users.
So it's like this living, breathing ecosystem that's constantly learning and adapting based on the needs of its users.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's not all. The white paper even hints at more exciting developments down the road.
Like what?
So more sophisticated ways to measure reputation, we could see time-based billing for AI tasks. Maybe even some systems for like resolving disputes.
So they're really thinking of everything. It's really clear that the team behind the Render Network is really thinking long term. You know, they're building a platform that's adaptable, especially with this ever-changing landscape of digital content creation.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is bigger than just rendering. This is about building the infrastructure for a more decentralized future.
I think so too.
I love that. This has been an amazing deep dive so far.
Yeah, it has.
And it's clear that decentralized rendering has the potential to be absolutely huge.
Definitely.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and think about, okay, what does this actually mean for, you, the listeners? And I have to say, this deep dive into the Render Network has really got me thinking about the future of, well, everything.
It's true. Its potential goes way beyond just making like prettier pictures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves and we're in the future, let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Okay.
For our listeners who are, listening to this and thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but how does this affect me?
Yeah.
What are the takeaways?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really just comes down to the fact that we live in a world that's, more and more driven by digital content every day.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the movies we watch, the games we play, even just the products that we buy, they all start with someone imagining it. And a lot of times that imagination takes shape in the digital world.
And the more complex those creations get, the more we need the power of platforms like the Render Network to even make them a reality.
Exactly, exactly. And, the Render Network's goal is to really democratize access to that power. So it's leveling the playing field so that anyone with a great idea and a passion for creating can bring their vision to life.
Yeah.
It's about empowering individuals and smaller teams to really be able to compete with those bigger players.
I love that. It's like giving a paintbrush to somebody who's only ever dreamed in black and white. So besides entertainment, where else do you see decentralized rendering making a real impact?
Honestly, the possibilities are just vast. Imagine like scientists being able to render complex protein structures in minutes instead of weeks, which would lead to breakthroughs in medicine. Or like architects collaborating on designs for sustainable cities in real time, and they can actually see it, with photorealistic detail. So decentralized rendering can really revolutionize fields like education, engineering, you name it.
It's not just about creating things faster and cheaper. It's about unlocking these new levels of creativity and collaboration.
Exactly.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And I really like that.
And that's what's so exciting for me is like the philosophical implications of, decentralized networks like this. Right. It's about moving away from those centralized control models and moving toward a more open and transparent and ultimately equitable system.
Putting the power back into the hands of the creators, the community.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, that shift has implications that reach far beyond the world of 3D rendering, right? It's a glimpse into a future where individuals have more control over their data, their creations, just their digital lives in general.
It's a future that I want to be a part of.
Me too.
That sounds like a really good future. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We went from the technical nuts and bolts to these mind-blowing possibilities.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
It has.
Really highlights how fast the world of technology is changing.
It really does. That's why we love doing these deep dives, to explore these really cutting-edge innovations and to hopefully help our listeners understand how they might shape the future.
Absolutely.
But it's important to remember, like you were saying, this is still so early. The Render Network and the whole concept of decentralized rendering, it's always evolving.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's kind of the most exciting part, right? Who knows what amazing things people are going to create with these tools in the years to come.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see what people do with it.
I can't wait. So to our listeners, we say, keep an eye on this space because the future of digital creativity is being written right now.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one writing the next chapter.
That is a great point. That is all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope you found this as fascinating as we did.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
Until next time, keep those imaginations firing. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of groundbreaking tech.